Hello everyone. We're going to talk about end behavior of graphs. When we're looking at end behavior of a polynomial, I want you to remember the coordinate plane. We have quadrant 1, and if we're going to plot a point in quadrant 1, we know that we are going to have a positive in my x value as well as a positive in my y value. In quadrant 2, if I were to plot a point in that quadrant, I know I would have a negative for my x value, but a positive for my y value. In quadrant 3, we would have a negative for my x value and also a negative for the y value. And in quadrant 4, we would have a positive for our x value, but a negative for our y value. This is a good tip for you to understand end behavior. The next thing we will do is look at some graphs. I'm going to graph a straight line here. And we're looking at the ends where the arrows are. Those are our ends, or our end behavior. So we're trying to determine exactly what is happening in that end. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is this end. So we're going to read left to right. So looking at the left side of this graph, this end is in the third quadrant. So I want you to keep that in mind over here, the third quadrant, as we write our notation for our end behavior. So end behavior starts with f of x. F of x is basically our y-axis. So f of x is going toward the negative infinity. Okay, so this is our y value. So if we're looking at this right here, our y value is negative. It's going in the negative direction, going down. As that is happening, our x values are also going toward negative infinity. So again, if you look here, here's our x values. They're going towards negative infinity. We have two ends to this graph, so we're going to look at this end next. This end is in the first quadrant, so we're going to pay attention to this positive here. So in this case, as f of x, or my y values, are going toward positive infinity, my x values are also going toward positive infinity. In this graph, we have a parabola, and we're going to take a look at the left side of the graph first, so right here, and we're going to write our notation for our end behavior. So remember, f of x is your y-axis, and then we have the x-axis. So, as f of x is going toward positive infinity, so remember, this is quadrant 2. If I plot a point here, it will go negative for my x, but positive for my y, or my f of x. So if I'm going towards positive infinity for my f of x, then what's happening to my x values? Well, my x values are going toward negative infinity. The next part of this end behavior graph is the right side. This is in quadrant 1. So I'm going to write my notation. My f of x, or my y value, is going toward positive infinity. Again, if I were to plot a point here, I would have positive. And my x values would also be going toward positive infinity.